Yes, a nice rib sandwich, not a McRib sandwich. I'm doing stuff a little bit differently here today. And in fact, we are doing things the day ahead from when we're gonna be smoking those ribs up. Two reasons for that. One, wanna get a barbecue sauce made and let those flavors come together overnight. And two, I wanna get the ribs prepped and seasoned and let those seasonings set in overnight. So first, let's get our barbecue sauce ready. I'm using my induction burner out here on the counter just so we can see everything easily. And I'm starting with 2.5 cups of regular ketchup. To this, I'm adding 1/2 cup of apple cider vinegar and a cup of water. I wanna give these liquid ingredients a little stir here before we add the rest of our ingredients and our seasoning. And we're gonna be doing this on a low to medium low heat today. So if you're doing it on a regular burner on the stove, just, low to medium low heat. We're just really gonna be going for a simmer today. Next up, I'm adding 13 ounces of a mango pineapple preserve. Now you could switch this up if you want a different flavoring in here, but I'm going for a tropical sort of barbecue sauce. There are nice little chunks of fruit in here, which is good. Next, I'm adding 2 tablespoons of molasses. 1, 2. The zest of 1 small orange, 1/2 teaspoon of dried mustard, 1/2 teaspoon of granulated garlic, 1/2 teaspoon of ground black pepper, 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt, and 1/2 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. Give this a quick stir here and get everybody mixed in. I'm also going to turn on the induction burner. There's a little fan here, you might hear that. And I'm going, like I said, for a medium low heat, probably about power level 3 on this. And I'm just going to let this come to a simmer and let it simmer for about 15 to 20 minutes so it comes together, reduces maybe a little bit. Then we'll give it a taste and see if we need to adjust for any seasoning. All right, we've been going for about 15 minutes here now. I've been stirring about every minute, and that's one thing you want to do because there is some good amount of sugar in this through those preserves. A lot of barbecue sauce you'll add brown sugar to. I didn't do that today because those preserves are bringing the sweetness that I want. And so this is really starting to smell great. Let's get a little taste, see if we need to adjust for anything. Sweet and tangy. That's what I want. Nice flavors from the pineapple and mango. This is perfect. All right, I'm gonna turn this off. I'm gonna let this cool. Then I'm gonna transfer it into a jar and it's gonna go in the refrigerator overnight. All those flavors are gonna come together even more than they are right now. And we're gonna move on to getting our ribs ready. For this rib sandwich today, we're gonna be using baby back ribs here. I have a single rack. And let's turn this over because we need to get the membrane off. Now, you don't always have to take the membrane off a rack of ribs. A lot of people like to. I like to when I have the chance. Sometimes you don't have the time, but for this, we really need to get this membrane off here, and I'll show you why in just a little bit. Just gonna take a knife here and slide up under the membrane. Then you can usually get your finger under there, or a thumb or something. And I've done a video on how to remove the membrane, and let me just say this right here. Sometimes it works great, it comes off all in one pull. Other times you're picking at it, it's not always perfect. So don't expect that it's always gonna be perfect. Try and get a good end on it, that's really helpful. And then we're just gonna take a paper towel, which helps with gripping this membrane. And we're gonna pull. And you can see not all of it's coming off in one pull here, we're gonna have to do a couple. Nice grip from the paper towel. And there we go, we've got the membrane off there. There's a few little pieces of things hanging on which we aren't gonna need, like this little flap right here. Just gonna trim that off. Now, when these ribs are done, we're gonna wanna cut these into sections to put in a sandwich, but we don't want bones in the sandwich. Now, we're gonna leave the bones in here. They're really hard to get out when it's raw without destroying the whole rack, but We can help the process along for later by making some nice little gentle slices along the bone, just along the edge. We're not going deep here. Basically just scoring it so that when these ribs are tender, when this rack is tender, those bones should release more easily. And if some of them stick, we'll work with that, don't worry. So just on each side of each rib, we're scoring it. The other thing we're gonna have to remember is at the end, when we are processing this to make it into the sandwich, there are these little bone fragments right here, which we're gonna wanna make sure we get out. You don't want those to end up in the sandwich. But right now, let's get this seasoned up. So before I season this up, I wanna get it up on a rack here, because it's gonna rest just like this in the refrigerator on this rack with the seasoning. And the seasoning I'm using today is Meat Mitch pork rub. It's got a pig on the label, so it's for pork and it's really good. Now really, you could season these ribs with anything you want, even just some salt, pepper, garlic powder, some SPG, it'd be fine, but I'm using this rub today. I'm gonna get a good coating, good base layer of flavor here. Other thing I like about this rub is it's very aromatic. You can smell it as it comes out of the shaker. And I am gonna turn this over, get a little bit on the back side. Not gonna worry too much about the back side. Give one more dusting on the front side here. That's looking good to me. All right, this is gonna go in the refrigerator, and tomorrow we are gonna smoke this up out on the S&S Grills kettle, and then we're gonna take the results and we're gonna make a terrific rib sandwich with that tropical barbecue sauce. So the S&S Grills kettle is up to temp. I want about 250 to 275 degrees today. I have water in the Slow and Sears reservoir, some foil in there to catch drips, and we'll be putting some cherry wood on here in just a little bit after we get the ribs on. So let's get them on. Now, baby backs usually take 3 to 4 hours, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more. Probably around the 2-hour mark, I'll be wrapping these in foil. And in about an hour, we'll come back and check these, see if we need to spritz at all. So let's get the lid on and get smoking. All right, we are at the 1-hour mark. The S&S Grills kettle is holding a really steady temp. Let's go ahead and check our ribs. Looking nice. Freshen up our wood here a little bit, add another piece. And those ribs are looking a little dry, so let's give a spritz. And I'm just gonna be hitting these with some plain water today. All right, let's get the lid back on. Keep on smoking. We'll check them again at about 2 hours. All right, our ribs are at 2 hours now. The temp has been holding really steady on the kettle, and I want to see if we're ready to wrap, so let's give it a little tenderness check. We're just starting to get pullback on the bones here, but I like to do a flex test. And we don't have a whole lot of flex yet. I'm just gonna do a quick little probe check to see how the meat is feeling. Is it probe tender yet? I doubt it. No, we got resistance. So I'm gonna let these go another 30 minutes before we wrap them, but I do wanna spritz them again. So let's get the lid back on, and in about 30 minutes, we're gonna wrap these in some foil, but we're also gonna glaze them with a little bit of that sauce we made. All right, our ribs have been going for a total of 2.5 hours now. I do want to wrap them, so let's get them off here, get them sauced in some foil. Want to add a little bit of moisture here. Pour a little bit of our sauce on here. Brush that around. And I'm gonna wrap these so that we can reopen them on the grill to check how they're doing. So they're just gonna be folded up to the top here. All right, the lid's going back on, and we're gonna check these in 1 hour. So we're at a total cook time of 3.5 hours now, 1 hour wrapped. Let's check the ribs. Those are looking good. I'm gonna do a little tenderness check here. Those are feeling good. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna wrap these back up. They're gonna just rest on a tray like that for 30 minutes before we take them out, remove those bones, and build our rib sandwich. So here is our rack of ribs. Let's turn this over and see what kind of luck we're gonna have getting these bones out. If we're gonna have to really work at it or if they're gonna help come out easily. Let's see. Not too bad, a little meat sticking on there, but they're pulling out pretty good. I think about 15 minutes more would have been probably optimum, but I'm always torn between fall off the bone or bite off the bone. I prefer bite off the bone, but with these, probably needed to go just a little bit more here. But we'll make it work. Just need to help it along. For those of you who like fall off the bone ribs, that would be really easy with these. Just twist the bones and pull them out. All right, I'm gonna finish pulling these bones here and I'll bring you back when we're ready to start building this sandwich. So it did take a little work, but I got those bones out of the ribs. And for a lot of people who always ask, doesn't anything ever go wrong when you make something? Well, yeah. I mean, that wasn't wrong. It was just not quite as tender as I should have let it get because I was going more for how I like it. But really to get those bones out where they just twist, needed a lot closer to fall off the bone. So like I said, 15 more minutes, maybe 30 more minutes, would have just twisted out of there. But now let's build this rib sandwich. So I have a Kaiser roll right here. I'm gonna put down some lettuce, and here is one of our ribs. And you can see, that's the other side with the bones removed. I'm gonna place that on there. Now some of our barbecue sauce, our tropical barbecue sauce. And if I get my board a little messy, that's all right. I actually really love making barbecue sauces from scratch because you can just get the flavors you want in them. I've made Dr. Pepper barbecue sauce, root beer barbecue sauce, cheerwine barbecue sauce. I think I might have done a Mountain Dew barbecue sauce. I know I did a Cactus Cooler barbecue sauce. It's just a fun way to use flavors you enjoy and get it into something you're gonna eat. And I wanna top this with some nice dill pickle slices. Finally, we top it. There we have it, the rib sandwich with our homemade tropical barbecue sauce. I'm not gonna cut this in half or anything, I'm just gonna dive in. You know, on second thought, I think I am gonna cut this in half. Let's just see, we're gonna go across this way. A little easier to enjoy that way. So let's get messy, here we go. Got barbecue sauce on my apron, but that's what aprons are for, but man, this tastes good. One thing that goes so good together here are the pickles with the ribs. There's something about that mixture. Maybe it's because like pickles and pulled pork, when I make a pulled pork sandwich, I love to put pickles on it. It goes really good with ribs here. The rub, the sauce, the smoke. Again, the only thing I would have done different here is gone about 15 to 30 minutes more, get them a little more tender so those bones pulled out more easily so it wasn't as much work, but taste-wise and tenderness-wise, for me, this is how I like ribs, is bite off the bone. Love this.